This video is brought to you by my patrons, my thoughts and opinions, and an amazing display of bad faith and disingenuousness. Hello, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and, well, at the end of every video, Arielle Scarcella admonishes us.
Keep calling out the bullshit.
And that is what we are going to do today. On January 19th, 2025, Arielle published the video, "I'm a femboy, try to stop me. Feminism is dead, everyone is queer," which is now titled, "This is where gender ideology got us." And my first call out is the person that Arielle and Blair White both used in their videos, apparently to drive home the idea that gender ideology has gone too far. And they should both be ashamed of themselves for using this person. If they truly believe this person can't make medical decisions for themselves, can't have a sense of self, is being abused by the people around them, what the hell are they doing publishing this to their much, much larger audiences? And the hubris to think they know someone's situation better than that person, better than that person's friends and family, based on social media? I would ask what is wrong with them, but I already know. Arielle is the good lesbian and Blair is the good trans. That is what they have based their content on, and if that means they have to throw other marginalized people under the bus, so be it. I am so disgusted right now. The thesis, if you could call it that, of Arielle's video is that feminism is still needed in many parts of the world. Her example is child marriage in Iraq, and female genital mutilation is still a thing that happens overseas, and feminism was at one point needed in the West. For example, women not having the right to vote or have their own bank accounts. But specifically in the West, Arielle wants to know why there are so many feminists, and why are so many feminists ugly, queer, and polyamorous? The answer is fairly simple. I don't know what Arielle means by so many, but people in the Western world are feminists because we still need feminism. And apparently Arielle doesn't know this, but child marriage and female genital mutilation happens in the West as well, including in the United States. And I trust my audience knows this, but I would like to note that this is not me dismissing issues that women face in other countries. It is just the simple truth that no country has achieved gender equality, and no country is immune to backsliding on any progress made. And that is why feminism will always be needed. Even if perfect gender equality was achieved, there will always be someone who doesn't like it and who works to convince others that equality is bad, actually. As for the rest, well, beauty is subjective, and I don't know that more feminists are queer and polyamorous, but if that's true, I would imagine it's because we see what can be instead of just what is, and we refuse to stay in the boxes society would put us in. Arielle, of course, doesn't come to that conclusion. She takes a more... honestly, I'm not sure what to call this.
It is a bit complicated, but after listening to these idiots on TikTok and Instagram and whatever for the last 5 to 10 years, I think I've narrowed it down.
This is my second video on Arielle's content, and last time she was diagnosing people with BPD via social media. If she really wants to know the answer to something, why doesn't she just ask instead of watching TikToks? She does street interviews. If this is something she really wanted an answer to, she could just as easily do that instead of making random inferences from random TikToks. And they are random. Maybe Arielle knows something we don't, but she could have introduced the TikToks by saying, TikTok username says she's a polyamorous feminist because whatever, and then show that TikTok. But instead, she just shows the most random things. And I was going to say I don't understand how anyone can watch this and take her seriously, but then I realized her audience isn't watching out of genuine curiosity. They just want to reinforce their biases, which is that people who go against the grain are crazy, weird, need to be medicated. Case in point, Arielle wants to know why so many feminists are ugly. Her proof? A woman yelling, "My body, my choice," outside the Supreme Court in 2022 at a pro-birth activist who just so happens to be holding a microphone. I'm sorry, are we supposed to be hot and demure while protesting for bodily autonomy? But this is Arielle's interpretation.
By the way, we're talking about new age feminism, right? Not like the old school feminists like myself. Men are bad. Patriarchy is bad. Wanting men to find you attractive is caving to the patriarchy. Well, yeah, under that pretense, it makes sense that so many of these feminists get fat, cut their hair really short, dye it an ugly color, grow out their armpit hair, and become extremely obnoxious. All things that men probably won't find attractive, myself included. You know, a lot of people in general won't find these things attractive.
She then cuts away to another protest, the video of which is from Turning Point USA, and there you have it. feminists are ugly because they don't want men to find them attractive. Because, of course, everything a woman does revolves around men, even when she's doing the thing for men to not notice her. Next up is the question, why are so many feminists non-binary?
We don't need men. We can fulfill our own masculinity role. Even though we say masculinity is toxic, we actually secretly love being masculine. We just don't love when men do it. And because so many of these women are masculine or mask presenting and don't want to confine to gender roles because that would be going with the patriarchy, they then feel the need to identify as non-binary. Or some even transition and then later on regret it.
Her proof of this is someone saying that sometimes they think they're not non-binary and they're making it up for attention, but then they refer to themselves as they in their head and realize that doesn't seem like making it up, and another person saying they thought their life would be easier if they were a guy. What does this have to do with what Arielle is saying? What is she even trying to say here? Feminists say they don't need men, they can fill their own masculine role. Even though they say being masculine is toxic, they secretly love being masculine, but not when men do it. But because of patriarchy, they can't identify as a man, and so they call themselves non-binary or transition, but then regret it because men are bad? This is a lot of reaching, and it doesn't even make sense. And Arielle, unsurprisingly, doesn't seem to realize that toxic masculinity isn't referring to men in general, it's referring to things traditionally considered masculine that can hurt men, like the belief that men shouldn't show emotion. Would it kill her to do any research before filming a video? Is that really too much to ask? Anyway, next question. Why are so many feminists queer?
Literally every single pride event, every single feminist march that I go to, almost every single person there doesn't want to identify as straight. Why is this? Since men are bad, we can't date them. We can't be attracted to them. We can't be attractive to them, but we still secretly really like men. So why don't we call the men that we do date non-binary, or they can call themselves non-binary, or they can call themselves queer just because they're like polyamorous. Because if our boyfriends are queer, they're no longer oppressors and we are allowed to date them. Okay, but like, what does queer even mean? Does it mean having tattoos, a facial piercing, horribly cut, pixie, weird colored hair, and just like identifying as queer? Is that all it takes these days?
I would like to remind everyone that Arielle's conclusion to why are so many feminists ugly was that feminists didn't want to be attractive to men. And that's why they would, quote, get fat, chop off their hair, dye it an ugly color, grow out their armpit hair, and become obnoxious. But apparently that didn't work. Per this imaginary scenario, men are still willing to date feminists and are even okay with their girlfriends changing their gender identity for them. This doesn't make any sense. And I know that's the point. We're supposed to listen to this and roll our eyes and say, feminists are so ridiculous. But Arielle is having this conversation with herself, and it's really easy to debate a straw man, or straw woman in this case. But thus concludes her questions, and funnily enough, all her answers revolve around men. Per Arielle, feminists are ugly because they want to be unattractive to men. Feminists are non-binary because they admire masculine traits but can't be men because men are bad. Feminists are queer because, again, men are bad, so the men feminists date have to be queer, even if they're actually straight. But at least you've answered her questions. I sure am glad we cleared that up and can now move on to more important things.
So many of these women are so deep in this feminist movement. I don't even want to call it a movement. Let's just call it the feminist cult at this point. They are afraid of betraying it. They're afraid of getting thrown out of the cult.
I have so many questions. Who is the leader of this cult? What are the rules? Is there a uniform? Do you have to pay dues? What happens if you're thrown out and you still call yourself a feminist? Who throws you out? What does that look like? Do they have a website, a commune, someone I can contact for more information? What are the cult's objectives? What sort of beliefs would a deprogrammer be looking to deprogram? I expect I'll be waiting a while for answers.
And the truth is, good feminism should embrace women as individuals, not see them as part of a larger collective, not want to control their thoughts and everybody feel the need to think and act and be the same way.
It's weird because in all the feminist spaces I've been in, there's never been 100% agreement. No one has looked or been the same way. Conformity was never a goal. And the whole point of equality is understanding that yes, people are individuals and should be permitted to explore their strengths and weaknesses without being pigeonholed into a box based on their sex. But remember, Arielle said this. For now, we're moving on to how Arielle thinks feminism has changed in the past 10 years and has split into the left, which is what she just went over apparently, and moderate feminism. So to recap, leftist feminism is when women are ugly, non-binary, and queer, and moderate feminism is TERFs, gender criticals, and tradwives. And it was this moment that I realized Arielle thinks women doing things is feminism. But feminism is about social, economic, and political equality for women. If you think women are one way and men are another, if you think women are to submit to men, you aren't a feminist. And at that, tradwives don't want to be feminists. They're proudly anti-feminist. Arielle so painfully has no idea what she's talking about, but then in this same video, she said these 3 statements.
By the way, we're talking about new age feminism, right? Not like the old school feminists like myself. Gender critical feminists like myself. I'd be lying if I said that women and men are equal. They are not.
How can you consider yourself a feminist if you don't believe in equality? What does Arielle think feminism is? Anyway.
Why are so many feminists TERFs? All trans women are autogynephiles. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly easy to think that way since every 5 minutes we're seeing people like this on our For You pages. There's no such thing as a true trans. Stop saying that, Arielle. I get this comment on my videos all the time. Again, I can understand where they're coming from because there are more videos like this every single day popping up. Also, the fact that these trans people are taking over our protected spaces, and most people have no idea what to say because they're afraid of being called transphobic, homophobic, whatever, bigoted, whatever. And even if they did want to, the majority of these places where these situations exist or happen are in blue cities where the laws have changed to protect trans people.
Her use of air quotes makes me think that Arielle also doesn't think trans people actually exist, but anyway. Her examples include a trans woman being thrilled to have been censored for nudity, and Arielle missed the point by 20 miles. She was happy to have passed. Traditionally, topless men are no big deal, but topless women, even when not actually topless, is, oh no, we can't have that. So being censored for nudity means she's being seen as a woman. Nothing about getting an erotic thrill out of dressing as a woman. Next is a trans woman saying she's going to go into women's bathrooms and locker rooms because she's a woman, whether people like it or not, and no one has had the guts to try and stop her. And a PragerU Street interview asking women to sign a petition to keep trans women out of sports and showing a random volleyball match. Which I guess we're supposed to assume a trans woman is in? Because women can never be strong? Women can never beat other women? Women are never aggressive? And finally, a woman complained about being asked to leave a restaurant because she complained about a trans woman making her uncomfortable in the restroom. Do these folks realize that if they got their way, Buck Angel would be using the women's restroom and trans men would be competing in women's sports? I have a hard time believing that the woman complained about a trans woman would be just fine with trans men using the women's restrooms and locker rooms. And do they realize that roughly 1% of Americans are trans and even fewer are athletes? I don't think they've thought this through. And I have to wonder, have they considered that someone might doubt their gender and ask them to confirm that they are indeed cis women? I'm thinking they have not thought that far and just assume that because they are cis women, people will always see them as women.
Why are so many feminists gender critical, myself included? Many of us do understand that there is extreme nuance to this conversation, right? Some people are actually trans and just want to coexist within the binary, just want to blend into society as an adult who transitions and don't want to make other people uncomfortable and go where they feel like or others feel like they don't belong. But then again, some people are just brainwashed by gender ideology. And in my opinion, many of these people that are brainwashed into gender ideology are either sexual trauma survivors, they have autism, or are simply just plain old homosexuals that got sucked into all this. So I think the majority of people can understand why somebody like myself would be seen as gender critical. We simply don't want people like that being taken advantage of. We want them to heal in a proper way, and telling people that are autistic that they might be non-binary or a boy or a girl simply because they feel differently about the way they see society or the way they fit into society or the way society sees them is ridiculous. Breaking the law and recording it and telling other people how to break the law and then posting it to TikTok isn't helping anybody either.
I just got my gender changed on my driver's license in the free state of Florida. My God, Ron DeSantis would be screaming right now if he knew about this. This little license now says female on it. It doesn't. You're not even supposed to be able to do this in this state. Here's the loophole. Here's the loophole. Listen up. If you're replacing your driver's license, not renewing it, but replacing it because you lost it, they have to take all of your information from what they consider a primary document. A passport is considered a primary document, and you can self-identify on your passport.
That isn't breaking the law. The law is being used as written, not her fault, there's a loophole. Anyway, Arielle's other examples are a TikToker saying they're trying to figure out if they're a trans woman or just a femboy, and wondering if starting estrogen would help with their male pattern baldness, and a TikTok from a hate account that took someone else's video, so I won't be showing it, but the TikToker just confirms they're trans. And it was here I realized Arielle is just concern trolling, and that, per Arielle, moderate feminism is about trans women. Arielle says all of this has become tiring, and I agree. Stop concern trolling strangers. The only reason we're having this conversation so much is because of people like Arielle who just can't let trans people, especially trans women for some reason, just live their lives. She has more complaints and just... Arielle, if you don't want to hear about trans women's lives and the difficulties they face, stop looking for it. Stop clicking on their reels and TikToks, curate your feed so you see things that don't tire you. It really is that easy. But at least now we get to move on.
Why are so many feminists becoming tradwives? I asked you guys this on X, and here's what you had to say. I agree with all three of these points. It's a contrarian movement. People are waking up from the lie that hustling to consume will make them happy. Also, pop culture is ugly, cheap, and meaningless, and the trad accounts provide beautiful, nurturing, meaningful inspiration. I agree with that, for the most part. Because the boss girl era was slapped by reality. Saying you're a corporate baddie that needs no man is fun in 2018 and 2020 when tech is exploding and it's easy to make $150K doing nothing. But in 2023 and 2024, mass layoffs in tech and new graduates struggling to get jobs in all sectors, understandably so.
So only women were affected by the tech layoffs? And working in tech, or paid employment in general really, is being a girl boss? And these women decided that instead of finding another job, they would just become tradwives? To be clear, you can be a feminist and be a stay-at-home spouse or parent, but you can't be a feminist and a tradwife. And again, they don't want to be. But since Arielle doesn't believe men and women are equal, I really don't think she knows what feminism is. I do find the pop culture is cheap and ugly, trad accounts are beautiful and inspirational a bit funny though, because 9 times out of 10, the trad accounts are shilling Amazon products.
I'd be lying if I said that women and men are equal. They are not. Women tend to be better at specific jobs, not always, and men tend to be better at specific jobs, not always. Now, that's not to say that somebody like myself or somebody that is attracted to men isn't happy being a girl boss or doesn't want to be or isn't seeing that for their future. It just means the majority of women are learning the hard way that they do want the traditional life where the man works and they stay at home.
That's not traditional though. For most of human history, we've all worked. And again, tradwives aren't just women stay home and men work. There's also the whole women submit thing, not to mention, the white supremacy.
Somebody else said probably the same reason anime and gacha games, I don't know how to pronounce that, spiked in popularity. People are starved for normalcy, feminine, affectionate women, balanced households, men as providers, and other traditional values after years of aggressive anti-family, anti-man, and anti-woman regressivism. I agree. Again, not every single boss woman, myself included, wants to be a traditional housewife or a tradwife. I do think we are seeing a rise in these types of influencers, though, specifically because of what this person said. I do think it's because of the anti-woman regressivism and anti-man and anti-family. I do think that's true.
I do appreciate our choices are tradwife and girl boss. I also appreciate how Arielle talks about the rise of tradwife influencers and apparently doesn't realize that these women are also bosses. They're running their own business. They're hustling. They're making money. And they're not just living their lives. They're trying to influence people to not only buy whatever products they're selling like typical influencers, but to buy their beliefs and live them out in a way the influencer isn't. And that is why it's not the influencers I worry about, but their audience.
Now, in saying all of this, of course, that doesn't mean that I think that women like myself can't be bosses, that women can't live without men. What I am saying is that I do believe that nature will come back and bite us in the ass at one point or another. That the majority of women naturally gravitate more towards nurturing positions, nurturing situations, and men the opposite.
If we naturally gravitate toward certain gender-specific things, why do people throw a fit when we don't? I really want to know what Arielle thinks she's doing and where she got her ideas of feminism from, because equality is like Feminism 101. I will be willing to bet that Arielle thinks equality is men and women are the same, even though in this same video, she urged us to acknowledge people's differences. I think I'm putting more thought into Arielle's video than she did. And that was it for this video. Please feel free to share your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one.